Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World, where every word matters. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. 2024 has been a transformative year for the Middle East and North Africa, marked by intensifying conflicts, humanitarian crises, and significant geopolitical shifts. From the ongoing war in Gaza and Israel's confrontation with Hezbollah to the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, the region has seen dramatic developments that will shape its future. How these events resonate globally is a pressing question. Now, joining us today on TVP World to analyze this pivotal year is Marcin Krzyżanowski, a Middle East expert at Jagiellonian University. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
So let's kick things off with the war in Gaza, and well, if you can help us round up how that evolved over the past year, and what does it contribute? What does this continuation mean for the region?
The situation in Gaza is still grim after more than a year of intense battle. Most of the zone and the city itself is in ruin. People are displaced, and Hamas is still kicking. Hamas is still trying to fight back against Israel and is far from being defeated and far from surrender. However, the organization is significantly weaker than it used to be in the past. However, in the next few months at least, the ongoing battle will be continued. And we can expect much more civilian casualties.
Right, and well, Israel's confrontation with Hezbollah also escalated sharply in the year 2024. What are the long-term implications of this conflict between Lebanon and Israel?
In connection with toppling down the Bashar al-Assad regime in Gaza, the current situation is new strategic reality. Hezbollah wasn't defeated, but it is in the worst conditions since the beginning of the very existence of organization. The especially painful blow was the death of a chief of organization, Sheikh Sayed Nasrallah, who was very charismatic, to some extent even legendary figure in the area. Without him and with Giuliani in the place of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, Israel can feel more confident, but unfortunately for it, not safer. Hezbollah will soon rebuild itself. However, this time it will be much harder than in the past, as the current regime in Syria is trying to position itself in a neutral position in the conflict between Iran, Hezbollah, and Israel. The Giuliani government strongly opposes of dragging Syria into that conflict, so it will be harder for Iran to supply Hezbollah, so it will be much harder for Hezbollah to continue its fight against Israel. However, the conflict will not be resolved in the nearest future.
What about the Israeli side? One of the major developments in this year is the election of former president, now President-elect Donald Trump. And well, as opposed to the Biden administration, where they verbally criticize Israel while still providing them aid, Trump's stance on Israel is rather clear and very supportive. Do you think that the new presidency, with newfound support for Israel, they will be able to change the status quo?
For sure, there will be a chance, and there will be attempt to change the status quo. We have to remember that although Israel is winning the battles, the war is still continue, and still there is a significant threat for Israeli civilians from Hezbollah, from Hamas, and from Houthi. Israel society is tired because of the constant bomb alarms, the constant threat and constant war. So there will be a strong push to finish, or at least limit the conflict and make Israel safe again. For sure, the stance of United States administration is crucial for that, and I think President Trump will give much more support to Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu than the Joe Biden's administration. So Israel will for sure try to escalate its force projection over the region to make its own deterrence potential even larger than it is now.
All right. You also mentioned that the fall of the Assad regime had kind of like a domino effect in the Middle East, but I would also like to take a step back and try to trace back to on how that ever happened in the first place, because the fall of the Assad regime itself was one of the most surprising developments of the year. So what do you think, what are the factors that led to this sudden shift?
First of all, internal rift within the regime. Caused by financial problems. The Syrian economy was in a really bad condition when the Assad regime fell down, and that limited resources forced President Bashar al-Assad to exclude some of the former aides from the inner circle of the government, and by that it alienated the regime alienated itself from a large part of Syrian elite formerly supporting the government. The important factor was the weakness of allies of Bashar al-Assad. Russia is involved in war in Ukraine. Iran was much weaker. Hezbollah was almost devastated by Israel. So there was no possibility to support Bashar al-Assad strong enough for him to survive, for his government to survive. The low morale of conscripted Syrian army was also very important factor.
Right, and taking a step back, we're looking at the Middle East situation, but how does that affect places like the United States, or even on a bigger scale, the global diplomacy in the entire region? Especially, we are already looking at quite of a instability, or at least a shift in global diplomacy going into 2025.
The situation in the Middle East is crucial for the Eurasia and North Africa region. First of all, instability in the Middle East pose a huge danger for the Europe because of the geographical short geographical distance. We still remember the wave of migrants from almost a decade ago, and that danger of the repetition of the situation is still with us. The next issue is the global market of gas and oil. The Middle East is a huge contributor to the global market, and disruption in the supply chains will affect the prices. There is also an issue of Suez Canal, partially blocked by Houthis aggression. And last but not least, for the United States, it's crucial to support its most important ally in the Middle East. Any threat to Israel is a trouble for Washington, and Washington will try to react and affect the situation.
Right, and with Iran's nuclear ambitions back in focus, what strategy do you think international community can employ to prevent Tehran from crossing this nuclear threshold?
There is still a diplomatic option on the table. As we can see, diplomacy was the only way to stop Iran from enriching uranium to the danger level. Of course, there is still a military option, but experts are divided on that issue. No one is sure if the military attack, will be successful. Iranians were dig very deeply into the ground to hide its nuclear nuclear facilities. So there is a threat that attack will only escalate the situation, will push Iran closer to the nuclear weapon. And as I said, diplomatic option is still on the table, but considering the lack of trust between Tehran and Washington, especially between the Iranian government and President Trump personally, such option is unlikely to happen. So most probably in the next year we will witness the continuation of Iranian nuclear crisis.
All right, and really quick before we let you go, looking ahead, what are the most critical factors to watch out for in the Middle East for the upcoming year 2025?
For sure, the most crucial issue at the moment in the next few months is the issue of Syrian government, whether the HTS government will be able to maintain internal cohesion, if it will be able to achieve national unity, and if they will fulfill their declarations that they will not harass minorities and they will not break human rights. The second issue is mentioned before, Iranian nuclear program. And last but not least, situation in Yemen. Those are three most crucial issues for the Middle East.
So plenty to watch out for. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your input and insight. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Cheers. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.